How's everybody doing this morning?
Very good.
Excellent. Good morning.
Good. Sue, congratulations on your reappointment.
Thank you.
So
I'm honored.
I'll remind everybody else when they join, but we do broadcast this live on YouTube and then we post it. So it's posted then in our agenda center where you see the town and country. That's Morgan Kipfert. She's our communications coordinator. She'll also be taking minutes of the meeting today.
Ryan, congratulations.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
We're just waiting a minute. Amber Walsh is our other member, and then Mayor Dalton also will be joining us. So we'll give them a couple of minutes here to get connected.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning,
Good
Mayor.
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for jumping on for our first meeting of the Fire and Emergency Medical Services Task Force. I don't have a lot of introductory remarks, mostly because there is no specific charge or boundaries, parameters that we are looking at, other than to explore all options and resources associated with providing fire and emergency medical services to our community. As you may know from prior publications or announcements or reports, we are in a very unique position, really across the state, in terms of how these services are delivered and paid for. A lot of other municipalities are envious of our circumstances. Our residents are very appreciative of our arrangement, and that is we contract and have for many, many years with the West County Fire and Emergency Medical Services District, and it provides extraordinary service. It also comes at an extraordinary cost, and our citizens do not pay a property tax to Town and Country. We do have a property tax. That's something that people don't fully understand. We have a property tax. It's been voter authorized, but it has been set at a levy rate of 0% for as long as I've been around and before that. And until these times, we have always found that that is a very appropriate levy rate given our substantial reserves. Those reserves still exist. We are in very, very good financial circumstances, very fortunate, blessed. I participate in a number of organizations across the region of mayors that report a very different circumstances in their community. I have the honor of serving as the vice chairman of the Metro Mayors Organization. That's all cities over 10,000 in size. And I've been in that position for a long time. And I can tell you that Town and Country generally, and with respect to its service in this area, is viewed very favorably, and others wish they had our similar set of circumstances. Every 5 years, our contract with West County comes up for renewal, and we are approaching that period of time. So Mr. Shelton will give kind of an overview of where we are in that contract cycle. But I can tell you that I'm very pleased with three things. First and foremost is the leadership of the co-chairs of this group. Alderman Mortland and Alderman Allen have come with a lot of experience from different perspectives, and Alderman Mortland from business, and Alderman Allen from public service. She served, as you may know, in the General Assembly, was very in the budget process, and has a lot of experience in government. And so for their leadership, I'm very pleased. Second, for your participation. Some of you, my friend Amber Walsh, has been on this task force before. Some of you, Mr. Sanders, are called into service in every respect, and others as well that are on the task force. We'll start off as a small group, kind of figure out where we want to go together, and then if we need more resources, either human or financial, then we will consider those as a group. And thirdly, I am very, very pleased with the terrific support we get from our professional staff at City Hall. Just like our fire service, a lot of communities around town wish they were in the circumstances that Town and Country's in. In regards to our professional staff, the communities feel the same way. Under Bob Shelton's leadership, Pam Wright's financial group, and Ashley McNamara's operations as city clerk, we are in very, very good hands. So I think with that, we have what we need, and that is a good leadership of this group, good professional staff behind us, and smart people helping us think through these issues. As I started the remarks, I'll close them. I don't have a charge because I don't want any boundaries to be set in terms of what we're supposed to do. We pay for the services that are delivered, the Class A services that are delivered to our residents without the support of a property tax and without a public safety tax. Those services are provided essentially well, at the city's expense, and the costs of those services continue to go up every year. So we've got to look at all of our options, be creative, be thoughtful, and then advise the Board of Aldermen how best to proceed. And then it will make a decision as to where we want to go from there. With that, Mr. Shelton, I will turn it over to you for a brief report, and then you can introduce the co-chairs of the group, and they can decide how they want to proceed from there. How's that sound?
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. I would like to just back up a second and note for the record, even though we have this live, we are broadcasting live on Zoom, and this recording will be posted on our website. But just for the record, Morgan Kipfert is also on here. She's our communications coordinator, administrative assistant. But I would like to just take the roll. There's Morgan. Thank you,
There she
Morgan.
is, yep.
So that we, for the record, know that we do have a full quorum. So if I'll go ahead, Mayor Dalton.
Present, yes.
Alderman Allen,
Present.
present. Alderman Mortland,
Present.
present. Mr. Sanders, present. Mr. Solomon, Todd Solomon, present. Mr. Tarlis,
Present.
present. And Ms. Walsh.
Present.
All right, we have a full quorum, and I appreciate everybody's input and involvement. And as Mayor Dalton stated, what I'd start with is just a little background history, town and country. I'll go over kind of our current finances. As Mayor Dalton says, we are in a very, very unique and excellent position the way our fire and EMS services are contracted. And Morgan, if you could go ahead and pull up the first slide on our PowerPoint so the task force can see while I walk through this. Go ahead and go to the first slide, or the next slide. Morgan, if you can go ahead and go to slide 2. Okay, while Morgan's bringing up slide 2, for a little background, in 1950, the village of Town and Country was formed, and at the time we were served by the Manchester Volunteer Fire Department. In 1958, the village of Town and Country constructed a firehouse and city hall. It's actually on Clayton Road, a little bit west of Dallas. If you haven't seen it, it's now Yavitz Insurance Agency. And you can even see there's a hose tower out in front of that building. So the building is still there. In 1963, the Town and Country Public Safety Department was formed, 6 full-time employees, and they had 1 police car and 1 fire truck. So these 6 individuals were both police officers and firefighters. In 1974, the village of Town and Country Incorporated became a 4th-class city, which we still are today. In 1983, the Town and Country Police Department was formed, and that's when the city began contracting with West County Fire and EMS. In 1991, the city completed construction of the firehouse, which is our current firehouse at the intersection of Clayton and Mason. And Morgan, if you can go to the next slide, I'll review some of the current financials of our arrangement for fire and EMS service.
A
Okay,
slight lag on
the-
PowerPoint, so.
City pays West County Fire and EMS a little more than 3.6 million for our basic fire and EMS. Plus annually, we pay $167,000 for capital expenses, pumpers and ambulance equipment. So we have a total of 3.8 million that we pay West County. The city pays Central County Dispatch, and that's based on assessed valuation under a separate agreement with them, $309,000 annually to dispatch fire and EMS. Central County does dispatch for most of the fire agencies, fire and EMS agencies in the area. The city, under a annexation of an area, and I'll show you in a map a little bit later, annexed an area around It's the area generally north of 270 over by like CBC High School that is in the Creve Coeur Fire District. We paid them $117,000 annually, which we're statutorily required to do under state law. So total cost, $4.2 million for fire, EMS, and dispatch. Now we do receive annually under our current agreement with West County Fire District, $162,000 annually in lease payments for the station. So Morgan, if you can go, if there are any questions at any time, I can't see everybody. Morgan will help me. You want to raise your hand, and then as soon as I'm done with this, which I'm about done, we'll open this up. The options, alternatives, just in general, and I sent everybody the 2005 study. These were the things that were kind of discussed in 2005. Obviously, what we have done in the past and was the recommendation, has been the recommendation in prior studies, is to renew with West County Fire and EMS. In the past, these task force and the consultants have looked at options to form a town and country operated department, hiring your own people, buying your own equipment, those kinds of things. And also studies in the past have looked at contracting with a neighboring municipality or fire district. And again, previous task force have looked at cost benefit, service levels, and have always decided to renew with West County Fire. Timing, so as Mayor Dalton had explained, the contract actually expires December 31st. Under our current agreement, the city has until December 31st of 2020 to decide and give notice if we're not going to continue with West County. So what we would like to do as a task force is have a target date for recommendation to the Board of Aldermen prior to October 31st. So a few months' time, not a lot of time to work through this. The last slide I have is just to kind of, Morgan, if you can bring up the map, kind of give you a little idea of the areas that I'm discussing. While she's doing that, and some of you may even be aware of this again, there is an area over generally the vicinity of CBC High School along that north of 270 that is in the Creve Coeur Fire Protection District. So if you see it, it's a little sliver of yellow up there, Preservation Park, CBC. And when the city annexed that area, it was in the Creve Coeur Fire Protection District. So by state law, we were required to then pay the district for that. In the lower part of your screen, you will see the West County Fire Protection. City, town, and country is the green area. But you'll see a section of blue that jets in, and this is off of Mason Road. That is a statutory area that the city is required to pay West County if we're no longer contracting with West County, similar to what we do Creve Coeur. That is in the West County Fire District, even though it's in the municipal boundaries of the city of town and country. So that's a little background. That's some of the finances. I'll turn it over to our co-chairs for any comments, any thoughts, and then obviously open it up to all of the task force for any thoughts.
All righty. Thanks, Bob. That was helpful, informative, and kind of get it started. So obviously I'm Ryan Mortland. I'm an alderman. I know a few of you, George, and serves on the Public Works right now. So, and the end goal is to review. Amber, you've probably been through this, but is to review the process and figure out what's best for our citizens, what's best for our overall budget, and what's best for the city over long term. And so, you know, we're going to kind of walk through this process. So my request is, if you guys have any questions, any need for information that we can go through. I think the initial area is we're going to get a lot of information from Bob budget and looking at the options in previous studies, to where in that process we can kind of reconvene and look at, you know, each option independently, and go through that process. So Sue.
Thank you. Again, I'm Sue Allen, and I'm the alderman from Ward 4. And I very much appreciate the experience, information you all bring to this task force. Actually, before I was sworn in for my first term, it was brought to my attention that certainly Ward 4 has more a greater response time once a call is made to the dispatch. So that's my concern all along. Obviously, the outcome depends on how soon after an incident a call is made. But and I know that I believe that Ward 1 has concerns. So I'm looking for the you know, us doing the best we can for all of the areas of town and country. What's most cost effective. I do chair Ways and Means, so obviously I've been told by some you get what you paid for. I appreciate the expertise that you all have negotiated prior to contracts, and I'm looking forward to that input from all of you. So thank you.
So one thing, you know, would help us if you just introduce yourself, your ward, your address, just so everybody has that for the record. I'm in Ward 3. I'm over in the Wheatfield Farm, 13044 Wheatfield Farm Road. So I'm right by the fire station. So I get, you know, and it's nice to hear the response, and they're on it all the time. So Don, would you go ahead? Oh, you're on mute real quick, Don.
My name's Don Sanders. I'm in Ward 1, and I'm on the eastern side of Town and Country. I'm off Clayton Road, right just a little west of Boat Road. So I'm close to the old firehouse. I'm in 2700 Covington Place, Estates.
Thank you. Amber?
sorry, I had to unmute. Amber Walsh, I'm in Ward 2. I live in Thornhill Estates, right between Mason and Topping. And as you mentioned, I was on the task force last time and happy to join again.
Thank you. George?
Morning, everybody. George Carlos. I live in Ward 1, 101 Ballas Court, which is just south of Clayton off of Ballas Road. And I serve on Public Works.
Okay. And Todd? Thanks.
Todd Solomon, and I'm on Ward 4, and my address is 130 Brinwick Place, and we are west of Mason Road on Ladue. We're on Ladue, off of Ladue Road, but west of Mason.
Okay. Good. Good. So, you know, obviously, when I talked over this with Bob, it was a couple of things. Our goal today is to connect. It's to get the information we need, to schedule and create structure for us to make this decision. So schedule meetings, and get the data so we can hit the deliverable date of October 31st. and then lastly is really to identify what we want the, it's not going to happen today, but to start to identify what we want the key criteria in making this decision. So we have the impact and the goal of the overall, the task force. So as Bob said, the end goal is we're going to make a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen. So you have response time, you have budget, you have, the three options we're going to go over. So in that process, Bob, did you have anything else you wanted to add there?
No, Ryan, that's perfect. And I know Don, being on the Police and Fire Commission, has seen a lot of the information that the fire district provides with number of calls, response times, and that is certainly information that I think could be helpful to this commission, and I'd be glad to make that an agenda item if it would be of interest. Just to give an overview of, this is the West County Fire District is currently providing. These are the number of calls. This is where our calls are in the city. Alderman Allen mentioned response time. So if that's okay, I think that ought to be an agenda item for our next meeting, is to review our current services a little bit more in depth.
Definitely. Do we have a sense of kind of looking ahead at what West County EMS may be wanting of us in the new arrangement? Were we to go down that pathway? Have we heard anything from them as to demands if they were to continue to service, in terms of the stations, et cetera, et cetera?
Amber, I do meet with the chief and the assistant chief on a regular basis, and I believe they're more than willing to make recommendations, but I don't believe they have any demands. I think the level of service that this community requests is the level of service that the fire district is going to provide.
Perfect, thank you.
I'd like to just add, I do believe that Jeff Sandler probably has met with many of the aldermen. I don't know if he's met with what do we have, three new ones, but his comments to me basically was to at the time outline the current coverage circumstances, and left it that our decision. We identify what we want and need, and they will do what we want.
Yeah, and Amber, I have a meeting with him. We're scheduling a meeting for next week too.
So and I just want to start off by saying I'm not on any boards. This is my first one. If I step out of bounds in any way, I'm a big boy, you could tell me, and we'll move on. But I'm probably, it sounds like I'm pretty unfamiliar with the history of this, except for Bob, I appreciate the overview. I'm coming in just completely off the street off this here. So I don't know, is this a negotiation, or is this them just basically saying this is what it is and take it or leave it? Other questions I have is our cost going up because of additional use, or is it just inflationary costs and wage costs that they have that are going up? What's the percentage of the increase? And what happens if they don't get our $3.8 million? What positions that put them in? Who really should be in the driving seat in this here? And I don't know the political aspect of working with other municipalities, but obviously we don't have taxes. So we have to do what's right for town and country. And I've never gone into a negotiation or a business agreement where it was one-sided. And I feel like we hold more cards than what it sounds like a little bit here. So I don't know if anybody can speak towards, I guess, the process of what this is all about.
Well, Mr. Chairman, since I've been around the longest, you want me to take a run at that? For better or for worse. Thank you for the question. And I love your perspective. and that is one of kind of a blank slate and an open mind. I also really appreciate Amber's perspective because she's been through this before, and I know everyone has extremely busy schedules. We are calling upon your service. We are taking time right out of your business day, and rest assured we respect it and will tread lightly on your schedules, but we need your help. Here's how it's kind of gone in the past. This is among the most important and significant decisions we make because of the magnitude of the investment. We also, as you point out, have a lot of options. Those options have ranged from starting our own fire department. We've explored that a number of years ago, and it would involve a major investment of capital that the city looked at very, very seriously a long time ago and decided it wasn't in our best interest. We can also partner with other area municipalities. There is, I speak on this subject across the region about collaboration, not consolidation. I'm a firm believer in that approach to government. We, people in Town and Country like Town and Country exactly as it is. We can always do better, and we strive to every day. But we can collaborate with area agencies from other municipalities to other service providers. That is another option. We can contract with a different a fire protection district that has significant costs as well. And we have seriously explored all of those options in the past and came to the decision that our best arrangement was to negotiate a contract with West County Fire and EMS. We did so 10 years ago and shaved an enormous amount of cost out of the contractual arrangement. And so much so that 5 years later, when the contract came up, the head of the board at West County said, Dalton, you and your team did such a good job negotiating. Last time, we cannot afford you anymore. And so we have to change the financial arrangement. And we listened to them because, as you point out, in this area where people are providing life-saving services, you can't have a win-lose scenario. It has to be win-win and it has to be affordable to both sides, us paying for it and the service provider for delivering those services. And so the negotiations are tough. They are thorough, and sometimes they can be a little uncomfortable, but they have produced very good results over the last 2 or 3 cycles that I've been involved in. These are different times, right? So we have to look at all options once again. And like I started out saying, nothing is off the table, and we do have options. They come at great expense, and this, as I said, is a very serious decision. We have engaged consultants in the past to provide detailed analysis of those options, and some of those materials, I'm assuming, Bob, have been all provided to the group. And if we need to engage those sorts of that sort of analysis again, we will think about it and likely proceed. We can't do it lightly because expenses are being watched very carefully. But this is as big a decision as we're going to make over the coming 6 months. And so if we need technical support and advice, we will consider it seriously. I hope that helps a little bit about where we've been. As I'll summarize, the negotiations have gone both directions. Where we moved it was 6-7 figure adjustment before, including getting out of the dispatch arrangement. We used to be on the board of the fire dispatch to contracting for those services. For we got into the the contractual arrangements and provided ways for us to generate revenue through city services and controlling our costs associated with those activities. So we have, when we open up the contract, we open it up, and all things are on the table, and all options are on the table. Hope that helps. Bob, why don't you, if with your permission, Chairman, why don't you see if you can kind of set the stage for where we want to go from here with some things to think about, call it homework, and then maybe elicit some parameters on time and when the group can get back together and what it would like to see in the interim.
Yeah, appreciate that, Mayor. So I think what may be helpful is if I can put together a little bit, kind of a summary of some of the information which was just discussed about those previous analysis, because we have several reports. So I'll take a run at, these are the options that were looked at, and these may be what the other areas, how they're providing their service, so we can get a better feel for that. So I think that's something that we ought to provide to this task force and then discuss. And then the other item I'm kind of hearing is that I think we ought to talk about, that's the information we had in the past. Those were the decisions we made. Has anything changed internally or externally to affect that arrangement? So unless there's something else, I see that as the next kind of big piece of information for this task force to kind of digest. I'd like a couple of weeks, put that together, and then reconvene this group, and then any other information you would like at this point.
Bob, if you would, and pardon me, I'm sorry, I'll just add to your list and then I'm done talking. Done more than I anticipated to date. But Bob, if you would include in that analysis the item of annexation. I have said publicly before, I'll say it again, I am not in that option, but I can be convinced I'm entirely wrong. It will take a lot, but I, for one, have never been interested in that option, but it is something that the city has been presented with by the Fire Protection District. It's a substantial change, and it comes with a cost to our residents, and and we lose that the control that we are in right now, that I think has served our community well. But again, I could be a minority of one, but I'd like that analysis to be provided to the task force.
Certainly.
And Amber, I interrupted you. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. And I'm sorry if you mentioned this earlier, but Sue specifically referenced some response time concerns from Ward 4, and maybe there having been some similar concerns from Ward 1. Do we have some aggregate data in the form of surveys that can be shared so that we know our residents' thinking? And then separately, I'd also be interested in the cost of the study that was commissioned in 2005, so that we know if we were to build that into the timeline. And John, you mentioned some costs associated with that. I'd be curious as to the rough cost to see if it's worth it. I'm not necessarily proposing it, but so we can decide if it's a valuable exercise.
Yep, good idea.
Thank you, Mayor, for mentioning the word annexation. That's kind of the elephant somewhere along the way. And as I've been at various resident groups, that gets to be a very possibly heated conversation. But I was not going to bring up some of these things. I was going to go for you with the prior experience, but I appreciate you bringing that up.
So I'll go ahead and put the information together with the kind of comparable services and annexation, what that means financially. And then to kind of look at a next meeting date, that probably puts us somewhere first week of August. That's the week of August 3rd. If there would be a day that works for the committee, it doesn't make any difference to me.
I'm open anytime. Are we going to decide that, try to get that on now?
I'd certainly like to while everybody's here if we can.
I'm free.
Bob, would it be possible to go early the following week, the second week? Like the 11th at this time?
Fine with me.
That's the worst time for me. I'm sure we're all balancing family vacations. This is gonna be,
Okay, yeah.
it's gonna be tricky end of July to early August.
How about the end of the week? Then like late July, 30, 31st, are people in town?
I actually leave on the 30th. So the 28th of July?
If everybody's available, we can
Or
shoot
29th?
for that. We may not have everything, but we'll do our best.
Yeah, I think
would be
the
fine.
more we do earlier, the better. And even if
Okay.
it's not complete, it's kind of dribbling information along the way. And so is the 28th good for people?
Works for me.
Yes.
So I have a question for the other task force chairman and then also for the police, fire, and EMS chairman, Sanders. Is there any other resources that we need to start thinking about, or any other things that we might need, or outside of just the information right now and that cost of that study? So Don, if you can
Sorry.
switch off mute. Okay.
I know there's been, since I've been on the police and EMS commission for the last 4 years, there's been a lot of talk about response time in Ward 1 and Ward 4. Some of the ideas have been floated around, having EMS personnel stationed versus having things coming straight out of the firehouse, if you will. And I know our neighboring communities like Frontenac and De Pere help on that side. Creve Coeur helps on the north side, if you will. But so there are some other options to enhance our service that we have floated in some of our meetings. So if anybody wants to talk about that via email or phone, I'm more than happy to talk to them about it.
It was even commented to me at one point, working, and I don't know if there was ever an answer, just an idea, St. Luke's with the emergency services as a potential resource also, because it's north of that very difficult intersection. Sometimes it's not distance. How did the gentlemen get to where they need to be with the streets and the exchanges and all that? And I know St. Luke's area was talked about having a substation or something. Yes, what you commented.
Bob, will the data that you have on response time and just the general statistical data, will that include a comparative to neighboring municipalities, Frontenac, De Pere, Ladue, Creve Coeur? Will it have that?
George, I don't know that I can produce a current. I would have to ask the fire district to provide that, or maybe do some research. I don't know that I can have that by the 28th. I think some of that information was in that 2005 that could give us an idea of what other districts' response time, what West County's responses are in other areas of their district, and surrounding municipalities. I can try to pull that up at some point. I don't know that I can have by the 28th. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Quick question. If we're supposed to give a notice, I guess, by December 31st of this year of our intent, how detailed is that intent? Are they just kind of want to know our upfront thoughts on, yeah, we want to continue, or how, at that point, are they expecting us to present them kind of our expectations or are they just kind of looking for a hand raised at that point?
Another excellent question. The 12/31 deadline is notice to terminate. And we have called a special meeting on New Year's Eve day in the past because we were down to the final analysis, and the board gave them notice, and then we ultimately negotiated a contract after that. So excellent question, and that is the decision point for 12/31. We believe that our relationship is built over many years of trust and confidence with the Fire Protection District that that we'll be able to have some good understanding of where we want to go, either together or separately, in advance of that time.
Mayor, in the documents that Bob provided us, it does say what happens if we do cancel the contract. I mean, it's all spelled out in there for everybody to read. It's pretty black and white.
Yep, excellent point.
So, and this isn't anything we need to decide now, but if we need a representative from West County EMS, we could have them join us on a meeting, if that is applicable for a resource or any other resources in that manner. So, but that might be down the road after we get through a lot of the information.
That's a great point. We did that on the last time around, and my recollection, of course, we can look at the meeting minutes, but my recollection is it was roughly midpoint at least one time to address some of the kind of comparative points to other options. So that's a good reminder, and I think it was really helpful.
And just, I deal with Jeff Sadler, on our meetings, and he's a really well-read guy. And I think any info, get it to us in a very timely fashion, as far as response times or anything.
Good. So, Bob, just for sake of continuity and creating structure, do you think we could schedule out maybe the next 2 or 3 meetings, so then we're ready to go from that standpoint?
That's fine with me.
Good idea.
So we have one in 2 weeks. Amber, when are you back in town?
I'm actually gone then too, but that's okay. I don't mind doing it while I'm away. There's just certain weeks that are worse than others. Starting back on the 17th, I'm good.
Would the 18th work or something on that week?
Just check
Late, if it's
one work
the
day.
week of the 18th, later in that week would be better for me.
20th or 21st?
21st actually would be better.
Okay. That's Friday, everyone. Friday, August 21st.
Good.
Yep.
And that one, we might want to schedule. We could do that maybe a little longer, time frame as opposed to the hour, so we can get a little more content in. Morning work better than afternoon?
On a Friday, it would.
Yep. So Bob, if you want to schedule that one, and then either the next meeting or we can schedule a meeting out.
Okay. On the 28th, we may look at our meeting following. On July 28th, we could look at a September meeting.
Good.
Perfect. Good. Any other input or ideas So Bob's going to get us some data. We've got a meeting in 2 weeks. Feel free to reach out to myself, Sue,
Same here.
staff. You know, in the meantime, we'll be collaborating, getting the resources and everything together, and we can kind of come up with our list. And I think if we really look at that 2005 study, that's going to be a good guideline to a lot of the
Definitely.
decisions. So I look forward to working with you, and I appreciate everyone here volunteering your time to help our city and our residents, and something that's so important for the safety of our citizens.
Thank you.
No, I appreciate it. This is, like the mayor said, this is probably the most important thing we have to deal with. So thank you for participating.
Thank you.
For the
Okay.
record, co-chairs, when you're ready, I'd like a motion to adjourn, just so I keep some official minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All
Thank
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate your time. Look forward to working.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you.